Welcome to Skillshare. This will be a 10 to 15 video lesson on Blender animation. We will do everything from modeling, UV mapping, rigging, rendering, compositing, and animating. But the first lesson will be on the Blender interface. So basically this is what you get when you open Blender, assuming you already downloaded it. Now the first thing you need to know is that Blender is actually amazing for doing everything 3D, from modeling to actual animating your models. So this will just be a quick interface video, as the entire lesson will be dedicated into making a small house, maybe a low poly 4 to 5 room house, only using Blender. We're gonna do everything from modeling it, texturing it, rendering and compositing. So this is actually where everything happens. This is your 3D viewport, of course. You just use these controls here to move around, or you can just click them for different views in respectively. And this is where you zoom in and out. So you zoom in and out, and this is where you move stuff. Maybe you want to bring it here, just to know your way around your 3D workspace. This here is your camera view. We also be using this in actual animating and compositing. And then up here you have your file. This way you open the kind of project you want to do. You open your recent projects, you save your projects here, and then you import all your projects, different formats, and where you export all your projects. And then I think another one we will be using is the preferences. This is where you turn on all your add-ons, all the add-ons installed. Just gonna scroll down, see I have that one is not turned on. I'm not gonna use it because when you turn everything on, it kinda kills the computer RAM. Everything gets slower. So I only turn on the add-ons I need. As you can see. But I think the first one you can just go in is this one. This has to be turned on. You're gonna use it. I think this one and the node wrangler. So you just come here and then you say ANT landscape, and then it will open it, and then you just click it. And you can also type in here node wrangler. These also has to be this one in specific has to be turned on, as we're going to use it a lot. So the node wrangler and the landscape ANT has to be turned on, as we will be using those ones for mostly everything from making our own landscapes to manipulating shaders, as we will be coding some stuff. And then everything you do after you selected whatever add-on you want to add, you just come here and then you save preferences, so that the next time you open Blender, that add-on will automatically be turned on. This is your 3D camera. This is light. You can use the sun, you can use all lights people get in the studio, like fluorescent lights and all those lights. We will be covering those at a later stage. This is where we're going to do mostly everything: modeling, UV mapping. Basically everything happens here. And then when you come here, this is your UV editing workspace. I think the second lesson is UV mapping, because I think it's one of the hardest things to do in Blender. So it's just a good thing to start with, so that when we actually UV map, you already be having a clearer picture of what UV mapping is. So the second lesson will be simple UV mapping, so that when we actually model the house, when we get to UV mapping, you've already seen this video. You'll just be like in a revision state. And then this is your shading. Come to this little part here. It's kind of taking long. And then we will be using this part for shading. All your nodes appear here. This is the rendering, but I do want to come back to this a bit. Now in shading, as you can see, it opened it here. You can do it yourself. Say if you wanna, you can come here and then you can go to your shader editor. That's how most people do it. But if you don't want to do it like that, you can just come here and then it will set everything up. And we're gonna get our nodes here. As obviously you have to click on the object in the 3D view to see its shaders. And this is also where coding happens. We're gonna code everything, textures and all that stuff. And then this is your animation tab. This is the timeline here, where we're gonna be telling Blender when and why, what to animate. This already is your camera view. As in the animation render, it's kind of divided for you. And this is your rendering tab, where your project will be rendered out. So the final result will be done in here. And then after rendering, we will be compiling our renders and then using compositing, so that we can do color correction and denoising and stuff, so that the final project comes out beautifully. And then these here are your options. I'm gonna go back to my 3D layout. These will be the tools that will help you manipulate everything from particles to physics, materials, textures. This is a very important part of Blender. You get to change everything here. We will be getting into it as the lesson goes on, but this is just a basic interface tutorial, just to be able to wrap your head around Blender. And these are your different previews. This is the 3D view, and this is the material view, and this is the rendered view. And then here you get to turn off your controls. This right here is what you use to move around your 3D workspace. Turn it on, turn it off there. We will be using this one too. So basically that's it. That's all we will be using for Blender. There's your move gizmo right there. Also works amazing in animation. As you can, we will be using this to block out our animations. It's kind of less hideous. You don't, it doesn't deform much, as it manipulates all the sides in a quicker way. So I think this is it for our first Skillshare lesson on Blender interface. And the second lesson will be UV mapping. And then the third lesson, we will start modeling our house, which will be obviously architecture, as Blender obviously is a combination